Hello and welcome back to Kong API Summit 2025. My name is Paul Nashawaty and I'm the practice lead and principal analyst at theCUBE Research, covering the app dev practice and all things application and developers. I'm joined today by Aghi. Aghi, how you doing?
Thanks for having me, Paul.
Yeah, thanks for being on. You want to say a little bit about yourself and about Kong?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Aghi, co-founder and CEO of Kong. We're here at API Summit, our annual conference of all things APIs. So very exciting for having you joining us and share more of our story.
Yeah, it's great. It's really exciting. The keynote was an incredible excitement in the room. The announcements that were going on during the event was just really, really powerful. So let's start with just kind of some of the high-level announcements that happened. What can you talk a little bit about some of those announcements?
Yeah, look, I think we're at this massive, dramatic shift. It's an inflection point where, yes, it's all about API traffic. It's about building API platform. But now we're moving from API calls to tokens.
Yeah. Yep.
And how we move intelligence is through tokens, and those tokens get moved and consumed through APIs and agents. So it's a whole different era, and so I was very focused to make sure we awake and rise into this moment where we move from just API connectivity, but also AI connectivity. And that is the big shift.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, when I cover in my practice areas, I cover past, present, and future, right? I cover the adoption of what's coming on with heritage applications and how those heritage applications are moving to like modernized approaches. And I've been following Kong for quite some time, right? I mean, my main focus originally was looking at service mesh, and you've grown up to be such a great big opportunity especially in the API space around the traffic. But when we talk about modernization, and we talk about bridging the gap between heritage environments and new, why is Kong kind of at the forefront of that? Because I see that as like you said, you're shifting from API calls to tokens, but in the AI era, right? But why is that important from a modernization perspective?
Well, look, I think I present like, if you go back to like Yellow Pages, right? Like 30 years ago, and probably most of the audience wasn't even born then, right?
Right.
But that was the first way where business would have a somewhat programmatic way to get contacted. You put your phone number, you put your emails, and then the online boom came out, internet boom came out, and we moved those into websites. And there was no API back then, and then Steve Jobs goes on stage, not this stage, and he creates the App Store era. And we just ran a bunch of applications. And that's the beginning where we built all these APIs behind the scene to power, make sure we're part of this new medium. Then we started to build developer platform. We wanted our APIs to be internal, external, to get programmatic access and all of that. And now we're going to the agentic era. So why does it matter? It's just another medium. Every business will become agentic. It's more about, you want to be part of it or you want to be Yellow Pages?
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, like when I see in my own research, I see that 54% of organizations are using AI in their production workload, and that stat's probably even dated. I think there's probably more than that using AI in their production workloads. But when what I was really excited about in these announcements that I seen in the keynote and then at the event, the conversations from the customers, is the future of where this is going. Let's talk a little bit about the vision in the future. What's your vision and future of where Kong has taken the AI approach?
Yeah, look, I think the big bet is API traffic and AI traffic will converge.
Yeah, okay.
And that's more important than ever to have a unified API and AI platform that helps you manage both type of traffics. We go from just API for RESTful, Open API Spec, we go through MCP server, we have HUAs, we're going event streaming, HTTP streaming, server-side event. There is just a proliferation of different endpoints. It's not just, Swagger files.
Right.
And so this is number one. Number two, you need to have a system of records. And the crowd here in the room, they knew about this. They knew that, we're trying to build a system of record of APIs and services, but reality, that never happened because people were we do APIs to make things connect. But then you buy 5 different systems that don't connect to each other.
That's right.
That's insane.
Right.
That's called insanity. So say, why? But in reality, there was never a technology that allow you to have different gateways for whatever it is the team needs. So we bring the first ever technology that has one gateway, or you say one mesh, or one AI gateway, or one event gateway for whatever flavors you need, and then we bring it all together. Why does it matter now? Because AI and agentic workflow are horizontal. they don't go just on one business unit powering one app, but they go across the enterprise. So how you go across the enterprise, you have to have a universal standardized railroads. But to do that, you have to have a system of records. So that's, I think, our vision of AI traffic and API traffic are merging. That's why you need a system of records so the agents can go and roam free on top and manage it all. And then you still need a platform for security, discoverability, all of that, but now it's for machines.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when we look at, the connectivity, you were talking about all these almost silos of activity that were happening, and that's not the right way to run it. You need to be more holistic across your ecosystem.
Yes.
There's a lot of...
You know why?
It's okay.
Because if you're not there, the agents cannot find you.
Right.
They cannot get consumed. You're going to be left out.
Absolutely. But that's just it, though. I mean, I think because the change that's been happening, say even the last 6 months to a year, has been so rapid and so, it's changing. The evolution of agents and AI and innovation is changing very, very rapidly. What when you look to the the organizations that are like a little bit hesitant on doing this, what would you advise to them and saying like, okay, they've built their existing data pools, their existing data sets, data is their business, right? Those now become the new LLMs or SLMs that they have, right? Now you have agents that sit on top and they're going to connect into these things. If they're not even sure how to get going on it, I guess what I'm thinking is what I really liked in the story that I've been hearing throughout the day is Kong is meeting the clients where they are in their own journey. So whether they're fully mature or just starting, you have an answer to get in.
Yes.
And can you maybe expand a little bit about that?
Well, look, the world is a different stage of evolution, and so is our customer, our partners. You want to meet them where they are.
Right.
And some people are still, on mainframe with our wrapper API on top. That's fine. We have the gateway for that. You just download and run it on-prem. Some folks are running entirely on whatever, AWS. We have the gateway for that. Some others are full on event streaming with Kafka. We got the gateway for that. Others are entirely LLM and agentic driven teams. We have the gateway for that. So you just want to meet where they are, but then whatever comes next, we have the next play, we have the next act, we have the next game, and then it all comes together under the same platform. You don't need to buy different platforms. We spoke a lot about monetization today, because this is all digital assets that needs to be consumed, but at some point, some of them will be sold. In fact, we hear from Anthropic, they already make $1 billion through their APIs, and they will make 10 and 100. It's just going to keep growing. So what we can provide billing, metering, and enforcement in the same platforms. It's unique. There doesn't exist anything like that.
Yeah, I had Ross and Peter on right before we were just talking. They were talking a lot about the open meter and the announcements around monetization of the APIs. It really is interesting. I will say this: it's not a new concept, but what you're talking about and what you're doing is really innovative for the next generation of AI. Where it's coming. So that I think is people need to understand the differences between like what they used to do and what they're doing now, and bridging the gap between old and new is important, right? Because people, they're built on their heritage systems, they're trying to move forward, and they need to know how they can do that.
Yeah, I think there's this thing, like I say again, like you want to meet the prospect into the customer, our partner, where they are, because it's a very long journey, right? They're going from digitalizations, API first, to digital first, it will be AI first, and you want to give an entry point to help them, to be helpful, to add value at that moment in time, and then go from there. And that's the bridge between building applications for powered by microservices, all the way into building agentic enterprises powered by LLMs. We want to be the traffic layer, the connectivity layer for both. And I think if this team, with this crowd, with this community, gets into the AI connectivity game, it's a whole different priority.
Yeah, I agree. But one of the other things I found interesting, just walking the halls here and talking to different folks, I was expecting to see more of the practitioners, right? A lot of the developers. And what I'm actually seeing is there's business users here.
Yes.
They're trying to figure out from themselves, how is this the right bet? Do I move in this right direction? And when I look at the the opportunity that Kong's presenting here and the vision. What do you see as the biggest opportunity, especially when we start talking about the AI era? What is that? What is the biggest opportunity?
So like you mentioned, like we have meetups around the world that is more for developers. Here is 80% about the architects leader, platform engineering leader, VP of clouds, right? We are about business, more on the business value. There is some developers grassroots, and we do build with a developer's first mindset anyway.
Right.
But this conference about getting together the hearts and minds of technology business leader, from architects to vice president, CIO, CTO, and that's one of the key pillars of the conference.
Yeah, the conversations were more solution oriented, right? And that's where I was thinking it's like they're solving the next generational problem. That's why I was asking, like when I think about the next opportunity, the biggest opportunity, you know, in my mind, I think some of your announcements, like whether it's Volcano and the SDK that's coming out, right, or if it's the monetization.
Volcano is tomorrow. We have an impressive lineup of announcement on day 2. A lot on MCP. We're gonna launch the first integration MCP. Raise our head of products. Will have tremendous lineup. Today we focus on the AI gateway with the new release, which is LLM and MCP gateway built in, so you can manage the traffic. We have that demo where you can order a coffee like that. And then as a side on the builder side, we launched Volcano SDK, which is like really the first TypeScript SDK to build MCP powered agents in a few minutes. Yeah. And I think that's the future, because most of the apps of the future, maybe they don't have graphical interface anymore. And so having just, prompt few things eventually and build an agent, that will be, I think, the next evolution. We want to be the first, and that's what Volcano SDK launched today to allow us to build agents like this.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think especially for your ecosystem, because this is definitely an area that you're going to be growing, and you got to build out that ecosystem. So the Volcano.
Have you tried?
I have looked at it on volcano.dev, right?
Nice.
Right out in GitHub, right? So I know that's available there, and that's where you can download it if you want to go get it. So that's where you can get it. But no, very cool stuff. So when we look at the importance of enabling APIs to enable the future of AI, we talked a little bit about it. I know that there's like different approaches, when you have like MCP servers, right? And you have, A to A approaches, and then you have custom agents that vendors are making. What I really like about Kong's approach is the ability to be a little bit more agnostic, right? You have, like you were talking about, pulling the pieces together that you want. So it's almost like building the recipe, right? You're putting all the pieces together and making it work. Can you talk a little bit about that, and like why, if somebody's using some heritage environments, how they can map to moving more toward the future?
So when I said like we're the only technology in the world, I really believe so. Our platform, our API and AI platform, is built in a programmatic way.
Yeah.
So the management plane is actually programmable, and you can add more and more runtimes underneath over time, but you also can add more and more apps or agents on top. But it all comes together to the core platform services. So if tomorrow there is a new protocol, an entirely new dimension, we can launch a gateway very fast and put under the same platform that we've been using for years to manage API traffic. And we will build an application specific or a manager specific for that type of traffic. So that's unique. Where, Rome, I grew up in Rome. In Rome, they say all the roads leads to Rome. Here, all the roads leads to connect. It all comes together. Whatever comes next, you're safe-proof to the future. We have the platform, we keep growing, and that doesn't really exist in anything like that. So if for example, you want to see analytics and observability, but you want to trace how an API call is impacting a token over here, what are the gross margins? Because we are full stack of the end-to-end, from the server to the client, we can see the whole traffic. We can always give a universal observability from an API call to a token in the same platform.
So that's the big push right now for the unified
That's
view.
the big push.
Yeah,
It's before it used to be unified API platform, because it was about unifying different management system together to have an API system of records. Now it's about unified API and AI platform together.
Yeah, I agree. So the other thing that I found incredibly important to talk about is security and compliance. Security and compliance is key, because when you start looking at well, one, security and compliance is just key in general, right? But when you start looking at the next generation of applications being created, there's all sorts of rules and things that are being put. Like, for example, the EU CRA. That's something that's going into effect. And so, like, if those rules are not followed, then you have some serious issues.
Yes, I think governance is a problem. Like, okay, you want to expose all this stuff. Where do you were? I said at the keynote. So I'm a big believer that history repeats itself in some shape or form. In the microservices era, you saw it. We went from monolith to microservicing. We start to decouple thing, and we start to build connectivity logic in our backends. At some point, it was 100, 200, 1,000. We stopped, and we moved to a gateway pattern as a traffic, and we start to manage that. So governing and security was up the traffic layer. LLM is going to happen the same way. You had one LLM, you build your framework in LangChain or whatever. Now we have 10, 20, hundreds of those, and we're moving back again to the traffic layer as a pattern with an AI gateway. So it's history repeating itself, where you're just control managing API traffic and tokens, but it goes back to the traffic layer. That's the big bet, we think, versus keep building connectivity logic into the LLMs or in the backends.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know. I agree.
In fact, LangChain it's not spiking anymore. And I think one of the reasons is too many LLMs are not going to write guardrails 100 times. I just put guardrails into the gateway. That's it, once.
Yeah, no.
And dispatch everywhere.
I agree. I also think that organizations are looking at it and trying to limit their number of calls because it costs money. It costs a lot of money to do it. So, and understanding those calls to make sure that it works appropriately is important to understand as well.
Yes.
What do you see when some of these, why would, I guess I'm thinking like organizations that are hesitant to try, how do you get them to feel confident in trying?
To try AI or to try APIs?
The APIs so they can adjust to these new modern approaches.
Look, our platform is free to start. And I think people, once they have APIs, they can just try it out, connect, and don't even to set a credit card or nothing. They have a very strong free trial and they can try it out. I think that would be the first. But, remember, it's technology, it's process, it's people, it's not just tools.
Yeah.
And I think we focus also on providing the best technology, but it's also about people. And it's about the culture and the project, and also helping either through our partner, our GSI partner, to help really transform the company, not just from here's the best tech, but how we can streamline process and elevate the culture of the company.
I like the way you just said there, because you're right, it is about people, process, and technology. Actually, what I'm finding in my own research with theCUBE, I'm finding that 67% of organizations are hiring generalists over specialists, and they're pushing back on the vendor community to create, to reduce the friction, right? And that's what I saw here is reduction and friction. You reduce the complexity, but because of skill gap issues, they also want to work with solutions service delivery partners, right? So you mentioned you have the GSIs that you work with that that are building out these solutions. That's another area.
Very important, especially when you're doing. Here we're not like, hey, here's a database. Here we're talking about enterprise transformation, not just digital transformation, AI transformation.
Right.
It's a massive movements that it can not just, hey, here's the tool. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of hours. There's a lot of process, and that needs to be rewritten for the agentic era. And we leverage a lot of our partners, our GSI, to help do this, right? So we can stay focused on just build the best technology and then bring the best partner to help transform our customers.
So where would you advise, you mentioned, it's easy to get started, right? It's easy to just jump on. Where would you think that, a year from now, right, we're going to be sitting here, you and I are going to be talking, right? And we're talking about, the API Summit in 2026.
There'll be 1 million people.
1 million people. Well, that's fine. That's great. So I was going to ask, what do you want it to look like, right?
Look, I think that this is we haven't done it. Last time we did live was 22. So then it was all online. This is a return to live events. So definitely want to do a live again, bigger and better. And this is a long journey, and every summit we'll learn something, but being together, being live is like no question, like it's about people, process, and tool, right? So having the people that you can talk and get real-time feedback and correlate, and you don't get highway conversation on a online events.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest value for me, particularly to talk with customers and get their live feedback.
What else would you want the audience to know? Like, what didn't we talk about that you would want the audience to know about that they should probably feel and listen to?
Yeah, we haven't talked yet about it?
Yeah.
Well, tomorrow there's a lot of MCP on Connect. Today we focus on Volcano, we had the iGateway, but we hear from Marco more. But tomorrow is a lot about Connect. And I think we're going to launch an agent,
little preview for
first
tomorrow.
AI agents, for APIs to make you a superhero as a platform leader. Maybe, the best would be if they get a promotion, right? They start to use this agent, he gives you all this insight, they go show to their manager, oh, this is awesome, boom, promoted. That would be their advantage. So I think those are very exciting part that we'll see tomorrow on day 2. Okay. We also have Kurzweil coming as a fireside chat. He was they wrote a book, The Singularity, where AI and machines will merge with humans and become smarter.
Yeah.
And he wrote it like 30 years ago. That's crazy, because now that's all we talk about it. But he saw it 30 years ago. So that's another interesting one that I think is we're going to find out more tomorrow.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Aghi, this has been great. I really appreciate you being on.
Thank you,
This
Paul.
has been great. I think the event is really exciting. There's so much buzz in the hallways and so much conversations have really been awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, Paul, for having me, and thanks for coming.
Thank you for being on. And thank you for the audience for watching. I am Paul Nashawaty, coming to you live from the show floor at Kong API Summit 2025 on theCUBE, your leading source for tech news.